Welcome back to the eighth episode of the Head versus Heart podcast. Somehow we're still not the worst gambling podcast on YouTube. Anyway, as always, I'm the heart. He's the head. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so we'll jump into accountability from last week. Firstly, for myself, I went 3 from 6 in my bets. Total loss from those bets of $37. So just a small loss on those bets. And my total profit for the week was $298.68 due to some other good bets in the spreadsheet. So I once again jump in the spreadsheet, check the bets that I'm putting on in there because they're uh, I often make a lot more profit on the week versus what I actually go in the bets posted there. And I've already got already put up 2 early bets for this coming week. So you would have seen those if you were in the spreadsheet early. But how did you go last week?
Well, so with the bets you've posted in this podcast, I'm actually beating you once again for the third week in a row. I had one. I had one from seven. One bet refunded. That means I broke even. So therefore, I beat you again.
Nice 3 weeks running.
3 weeks running. Come on, let's make it four. Let's make an entire month about performing you. Come on.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how this week goes. I'm feeling pretty confident in my bets this week, so we'll see how that goes. But we'll quickly
Yeah,
jump
well,
into each game and just break down what happened in each specific game from last week. So the first game, sorry, just 1 second. The first game was the Rabbitohs Panthers game. The Panthers ended up winning by 30 in the end, but the Rabbitohs looked like they were going to make it a bit closer to start off with. What did you have in this game?
yeah, so I had Panthers at a line of negative 29 and a half. Taruva and Tango to score any time, but unfortunately I got greedy and included the combination of those two to score three plus tries. So unfortunately they both scored a try each, but there was no extra try there for me. It was a game of inches, and unfortunately I did not get that inch.
Yeah, so very close loss for yourself there.
Yeah,
Pick the
make it
right
seven.
line and try scorers, but just for too many tries.
Yeah, I got greedy. I'm definitely learning from this mistake. I'm gonna chill out a little bit with that and see how we go from there.
Yeah, just follow your heart more sensibly this week. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to be a bit chiller on it. So, how about yourself? How'd you go in this game?
I didn't have a bet in this game. I was sort of wary that the Rabbitohs could put up anything, so I was scared of that, and that's sort of exactly what I like. How it played out was kind of exactly how I thought it would play out. They looked good in parts, and they looked really poor in other parts. So no
Yeah,
bet on this game.
yeah. I'm definitely hesitant to bet for them, but I'm also hesitant to bet against them now, given that Latrell Mitchell's back.
Yeah,
Him being back could do anything. It could do nothing. I think we're just gonna have to wait and see, especially with the ridiculous number of injuries the Bunnies have.
yeah, exactly. Um, the next game was the Seagulls Raiders game. The Seagulls were well ahead early on, and a late comeback from the Raiders made it a 26-24 victory to the Raiders. Uh, for myself in this game, I had the Raiders plus 12 and a half, and that was probably my most comfortable victory of the round. Yeah, won by 14 points, so quite comfortable in this one. What about yourself?
Yeah, so I had the Sea Eagles 13 plus with a sub and turbo to score at any time. Look, obviously I didn't get up on the line, but can we talk about the fact that Ruben Garrick is just refusing to pass the ball? But on both tries, any other center would have passed it, but no, he's running himself, and Jason Saab may as well just not be there.
I love it. I love it. It's good for my having him in Supercoach.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
not
I'm
good for
glad
me.
you convinced me to bring him in, but not really what I want to see from a betting perspective. I honestly can't believe the Raiders got up in this one. To be honest, I don't know what happened, but they found some grit and they got past it.
Yeah, no, I didn't exactly expect them to win in this one, but yeah, the 13 and a half, 12 and a half line was sort of too good to pass up in the end. When we were talking about it on the pod, it was like eight and a half, 9.5, something like that, because DC wasn't confirmed in, but then it ballooned out to 13 and a half, and I had to jump on. So yeah, very happy with the bet in that game. Not so much in the next game. So Broncos Roosters, 40-18 by the Roosters. Very comprehensive victory in this one. I'll let you jump into it because you had a winner in
Yeah,
this
so this is
game.
my first winner in 3 weeks, by the way. Keep that in mind. I had Roosters head to head and Dom Young anytime. And I was so filthy thinking that how dare the Roosters win without Dom Young scoring. And he goes over last try in the 71st minute. How good.
Yeah, a nice bet for yourself, not so much for myself. I had the Broncos -4.5. That ballooned out. That line actually ballooned out. So in that sense, like it got a good price in that game. But yeah, no, still not a good bet in this one. I mean, the only thing you sort of can speak to is that Reynolds did go down in the game. Not saying that that necessarily would have changed the result, but just take that margin of victory with a grain of salt because yeah, Reynolds wasn't on the field for the full game.
Yeah, it didn't really help. It seemed like their structure was kind of lost as soon as he left. But I hope a speedy recovery for that man.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Moving on to the next game, Bulldogs versus the Tigers. We did have a side bet in this one of 7.5. So you had the Bulldogs -7.5, I had the Tigers +7.5. Uh,
Single point of it. I love that. So good.
yeah, yeah, a very frustrating one for myself, considering the line ended up being 11.5 by the time the game started because Appy was ruled out. Didn't necessarily expect Appy to be ruled out because by all accounts, it sounded like the back injury wasn't going to be anything too bad, but they, I guess, rested him for the week to be safe. Hopefully, he's fine for this week for my Supercoach team, although they're playing tonight, so maybe don't want him to play. Um, but yeah, frustrating one in that one. But yeah, you got the Chockies in that side bet.
Yeah, how good. In regards to my bet itself, though, I got a bit greedy again. I thought that there'd be more points, but of course, I didn't bother to check the weather. And it's been rainy all week. It was raining leading up to, raining during, and raining after. So yeah, I had Bulldogs head to head. I had Cherry who got up. Thanks, Helen. And then also Adokar and Kiraz. Yeah, so first try scorer got up, but the other two didn't, and they didn't really look like scoring either at any point. Yeah,
Yeah,
what can you do?
got a
Am I
bit.
right?
Yeah, he got a bit greedy in that one. I think but they only scored 4 tries or 3 tries. Sorry, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Uh,
next one though, I'm incredibly frustrated about, and that is Titans v Storm. So the Storm end up winning by just 2 points, 22 to 20. My bet for this game though should have gotten up, and it would have gotten up, but I got refunded for it because a certain player, i.e., the man I had to score 6 points, Tanner Boyd, went down very, very early. So if the game played out the exact same, Tanner Boyd kicks 3 goals, which all 3 tries were very kickable, or directly in front. That would have been a bet up for me. So I said I wasn't going to talk about this last week, but can I call this one a moral victory?
yeah, bring it back, I reckon. Bring back the moral victories. Yeah, no, and this would have been probably the first game that we both had similar thoughts on in that I took the Titans plus line in this one, and we both would have won if that didn't happen. So disappointing we both didn't get a win on the same game. I think that possibly would have been the first time we would have won on the same game this year. But yeah,
I mean, to be
disappointing
fair, we
this
don't
one.
really win many, so it's pretty hard when that does happen.
Yeah, yeah. So disappointing, unlucky in that one. At least you got it refunded, but it's not much solace.
Yeah, I got so lucky. Thank you, Sportsbet. I will continue gambling with you from now on. This is not a paid sponsor, by the way.
Unless they want to do, reach out.
Yeah, yeah, reach out. We'll go sucky sucky to PP. Free money.
Um, the next game was the Cowboys Dolphins. Very frustrating one for myself. Watching this at the pub, yeah, Val Holmes had the kick to take it over 26, and it would have been a kick to tie up the game, take it extra time. And I also had the captain on Val Holmes, so it's just pretty heartbreaking all around in that one. Because there's a good chance if they go to extra time, he's the one that's going to be kicking the field goal with no Chad Townsend there.
Well, I mean, he could kick a
Lots of
2 point field goal as well. That's always Val Holmes got a boot on him.
Yeah, so lots of frustrating points in this one. My bet just lost by 1.5 points. And yeah, and then Val Holmes it cost me another at least 10 points, maybe more. So frustrating.
Yeah, fair enough. I assumed Val Holmes would have a decent game as well. I had him as a try scorer. I also had Trey Fuller, who we'll speak about later, but pretty disappointing turnout from him. I did successfully pick the Dolphins to win though, which I'm kind of proud about, given that they were pretty big underdogs going into this. But again, I got too greedy, too many points in the bet, and not all of them got up, so therefore that may as well be a zero.
Yeah, yeah. And in this one as well, that's why I didn't take the line. The line wasn't nowhere near getting up, but the total points nearly did get up. So an extra frustrating point for myself there. It was very close to getting up. And was a smarter bet than taking the line particularly. The next game was the Knights Warriors. Great win for the New Knights boys in the rain in Newcastle. I didn't have a bet on this game, but how did you go?
Yeah, so I had KPP and Armstrong to score. Neither did. Again, I wouldn't have put this bet on if I knew it was going to be wet and rainy.
Yeah,
Armstrong didn't get involved at all. I believe he got 20 something on Supercoach. Is that right?
29. Yeah, rings a bell.
29. Yeah, not great, but it was an absolute torrential downpour. So you can't really blame a fullback for not scoring there, especially someone in his second game.
Yeah,
Look, KPP is due unbelievably so. I think I think I've got a bit of a sunk cost fallacy with him. If I take money off him to score, he's going to score. So from now to round 27, I will have a bet on him every week until he scores.
right. Good that you're locked into that.
I'm
Good.
locking myself in right now.
Nice, nice. Okay, so that's what we can expect in this week, and we can speak to Armstrong whether he's still a good buy this week after I think it was a 25 on the weekend.
Yeah, I'll get into
Um,
it later.
but yeah, the final game of the round was the Sharks Dragons, 20 points to 10. The Sharks in this one, I had the Dragons plus 12 and a half, and that was a side bet as well. So I got up on that side bet. So we went 1-1 in this week's side bets. What did you have in this one?
Yeah, so again, pretty bad weather. Did you see photos of the ground before the game?
Looked like a
Like
swimming pool.
it was like an actual swimming pool. Yeah. So again, I got a bit greedy with the try scorers. I did hit one. Mulatalo, Hines, Lomax did not score, but Tommy Hazelton did.
Of course.
Third
Every
game in a row, he continues
death
to score. He's an
taxes.
absolute weapon. Death taxes and Tommy Hazelton to score.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I probably should have put money on Hazelton to score by himself, especially given that he's an absolute goat right now. And Mulatalo is having a bit of a quiet period, but I guess you could probably just blame that on the fact that it's been pissing all the whole time. So
Yeah, it's hard to know whether that's 100% the rain or they just stopped going that way, but we'll
yeah, it's
jump into
really
that when
hard
we
to tell.
talk
Yeah,
about
we'll
that
get
game.
back there.
Yeah, so that was the games from each round. As I mentioned, we went 1-1 this week. So it's 3-1 total over the last 2 weeks to myself. We're going to jump into this round and have three side bets on likely to make it so that you can try to win 4-3,
Yeah,
as you almost
eventually
did
you are going to
last
blow
time.
a 3-1 lead, just like those Lakers. I've got trust in the process. I don't think you do, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. So if this is a hard week, you might get up, but yeah, I just need to win one, and you need to win all three of the side bets.
I
We'll
mean, they're
jump into
playing in the
those.
rugby league like they're playing in the rugby league heartland of Tamworth. I think it's a hard week.
Yeah, yeah, nice. Um, yeah, so probably one side bet for this week would be just our Supercoach total score. So we'll reveal that our total score next week. Just whoever has the highest total score out of the two of us can be one
Very
of the
easy.
side bets. But speaking of Supercoach, we'll jump into our ranks because we both had good scores on the weekend. My rank has jumped to 21,958, up around 8,500. I had a total score of 1,290, buoyed by scores of like Terrell May, Angus Crichton, Ruben
Yes.
Cotter, but unfortunately had a poor captain choice in Val Holmes that brought me back down a little bit. What about yourself?
Yeah, so I am now currently 36 south. Uh, I'm now 36,863, up 7,000 with a score of 1,239. So similar to you, that was because I had some great scores in Hazleton, Eisenhuth, Ruben Cotter. Essentially, my front row forwards performed incredibly well, which is really funny. And then I had some pretty bad scores in places like Craig Fuller, etc.
Yeah,
But yeah, I did all right.
yeah, and you'd
So
expect
trade,
trade for
sorry,
to bounce back. So
exactly.
let's talk best bets for the week. So going into the next round, my best bet of the round is the Eels plus 9.5 on points bet at $1.97. Hopefully, there's a chance that goes even longer because I think a lot of people will like the Broncos in this one in the public. So I think there's a chance that goes to 10.5. And if I can get 10.5 on game day, I'll take that. So I'm definitely waiting on this one. But at the moment, I'm still happy to take 9.5. But we'll wait and see if that one goes up further. What about yourself? What's your best bet?
Yeah, so third time's the charm, but we're adjusting a little bit. Like I said, Jason Saab isn't scoring, so we're trading that with Garrick. Turbo will score, and Manly will win by 13 plus points. That is paying $10.75.
Nice, nice. Uh, let's talk trades, Supercoach trades for the round. For myself, I'm using my last boost to go from Schiller to Armstrong, Roger Tuivasa Sheck to Dom Young, and Pappenhausen to Drinkwater. Uh, yeah, I mean Armstrong and fairly obvious trade in Drinkwater's been strong, but just RTS out to Young. Just because RTS, I think they'll come into a bit tougher fixtures. Warriors haven't been looking amazing, and Young has been sort of killing it. And I just don't really have any other options. I would preferably not trade out RTS, but I don't really have any other good trade out options for this week. But what about yourself?
Yep, so unfortunately, I have to let go of Pappy as well. I can't believe it. I am so mad. This is a trade I didn't want to make, but I am doing Pappy to Armstrong. But that does free me up to do Sean Lane to Gus Crichton, who I didn't have previously. And after scoring the highest ever score from a second row, sorry, any forward in Supercoach, did you see that?
That's Crichton.
Yeah, Gus Crichton scored the highest score ever from a Supercoach, like a forward in Supercoach.
I didn't know it was the highest score ever, but yeah,
Yeah,
crazy stuff. It was
yeah,
ridiculous.
crazy. I'm on the Gus bus now.
Yeah, yeah. And luckily, I already am. Let's just talk best trades generally because there's going to be stuff that doesn't necessarily affect our team. So the one that we're both making this round is Armstrong, obviously. So just for myself, Armstrong, even though he had a 25 in the weekend, still a trade. You look if you watch the game, obviously very wet game, not great conditions for him. I think he's still, I mean, he's obviously still going to make money because he's priced at 200K, but I think he's still going to do well for the Knights in that system there. A lot of the Knights system was already built around Ponga, and he slots in there and can do some of the things that Ponga can do, and so I think he'll be on for some big scores still. So
Strongly
definitely
agree.
a
And
trade in that I
again,
like.
worst case scenario, he's got another 10 weeks in that spot. Even if he gets, say, 40s every week, you are still going to make a 200 grand off him. He is a $200,000 player.
Yeah.
He is dirt cheap. Like he's quite literally the cheapest he can be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the other argument is, but maybe like if people want to save trades, they might go far longer instead of him. But I'm still very much more keen on Armstrong for 130K less.
Yeah, definitely. Another big one to mention as well would be Blaze Talangi, who's probably locked down that fullback spot for at least another 5 games.
Yeah,
I think if you don't have him already, I think he's a decent pick now. Um, I've had a quick look. I think the Eels next couple games might be decent. And also it's his chance to. He's been dropped already. It's his chance to show that he's first grade material. And I think from a kind of art perspective, I think he's going to show up and kind of prove the people wrong given that so many people have dropped him already.
yeah. I mean, just from a head perspective, I think he is a hold rather than a buy because he does have a low score on his rolling average, so he won't jump too much this round. I think his break even. I can look into
I,
that, but I think his
I don't think
break
it's
even.
that high.
Yeah, it's still pretty high. So you don't need him this round. I think it's just a wait and see if you don't have him. But I was going to trade him out or thinking about trading him out instead of RTS this round, but kind of have to hold him. Now he's got the start at fullback and I'll hold it for a few weeks with Guts. So now, yes, he's got a 37 break even.
Fair
So I
enough.
don't think you need to get him this round.
I think he's going to score 70 plus, and I'm happy to take a side bet on that if you want.
Yeah, I'm happy to take under 70 But
Actually, let's change that. What about 60? I
yeah,
will
let me
cut
think.
myself back. Would you take 60?
Yeah, I'll take 60.
Okay,
So
there we go. Over 60. I think he's going to kill it today. I'll kill it this week.
yeah, okay, we can take that. Um, yeah, yeah, but I mean, he definitely could go well. Yeah, I wouldn't knock him like as an option, but just yeah, not a trade in this week for mine necessarily.
Fair enough.
Just in terms of other players trading, Dom Young probably is the next priority for mine. He's looks like he has a lot of upside potential, and some people would have been burnt by that -14, but you can't really, or whatever it was, I can't remember exactly, but can't really read too much into that, and that's out of his rolling average now. So this is the cheapest you're going to get him. If you want him, you have to, or you should get him this week. And I say he's the second best center wing option because someone like a far longer isn't number one, hasn't played any games at fullback this year, and number two has played one game this year. So you don't need to jump on it right away. You can wait a week if that's who you're looking at.
Didn't Farlongo also have an injury scare as well in the last game? Like, I don't think he's 100% certain to start.
Yeah, yeah. No, you are right. He did.
Yeah,
He did pick up something, but he's not 100% certain to start. So even if you were looking at Farlongo, that's one you wait
yeah,
until
definitely.
game day to lock in. Um, just in terms of some of these other highly traded in options, Ruben Garrick up there. We both got Garrick, and you really can't complain. I still think he's a trade in for this week. What about you?
Yeah, so definitely they're playing an easier opponent. Ruben Garrick is now killing it as well. He has the boot. He has a break even of 4 as well. It's not too late to get him, but he will continue to rise in price. I think if you don't have him, you need to try to get him as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah. Another one here, another center wing is Jermaine Sarko. So I've already spoken to like at least 3 players that I prefer to Jermaine Sarko, but just to explain why I don't necessarily like Jermaine Sarko, obviously goal kicking is great, but I still am not 100% convinced on this Dolphins team. And Herbie Farnworth comes back in, so I think Herbie Farnworth's going to hold the ball a hell of a lot more, and Jermaine Sarko isn't going to score 3 tries every week like he did last week. Got 150 odd, um, and like there's no way he gets, in my opinion, there's no way he gets anywhere near 150 this week. Um, so yeah, I can't see him as a trading option, especially now he's pushed back out to sort of around his starting price. It's almost 800K again. So yeah, not an option for me. What about yourself?
Yeah, so there's 2 players in particular I'm looking at for 2 totally different reasons. The first is Dave Fafita, who is 820,000. But if you get him, I think with a break even of 42, I think he's consistently going to get 80s. He's going to consistently score tries. And I think he's the perfect final boss for your second row. I really want him in my team. And I think having him there would mean that I set him there, I lock him down, and he stays there for the rest of the year. The other player I think is probably actually, yeah, probably getting close to being a buy. Not this week, but next week is Greg Marzu, but we'll get into it later.
Yeah. Just to quickly speak on Fafita, I think what you said in terms of a final boss is how you should think of it. You shouldn't be thinking to buy him now, in my opinion, because he's got Origin, and there's almost 0% chance in my mind that he doesn't get picked for Origin. Like he has to be playing. So um, I wouldn't be picking him up at this point of the year because you know, best case is he just misses the Origin games, then plays full minutes. But I think that's unlikely. I think his minutes are managed during Origin. So even when he is playing, he's going to lose some money. So I think your best option, even though it is tempting, I think your best option is to pick him up after the Origin period there. And maybe one to think about if you're thinking about bringing in Dusty this round as well. Could be playing Origin as well. Less likely, in my opinion, than Fafita, but just another thing to sort of think about as well.
Yeah, no, understandable. I'm feeling emotional here. I think he's going to score 6 tries before the Origin period.
Right. There you go. In terms of
So
other
extreme.
players, there's no one else that really stands out massively to me. Drinkwater's the obvious trade in at fullback is um, why I'm making that move. AJ Brimson is another not bad option, but we can sort of talk about that in the game. Let's
Yeah,
jump into
definitely.
yeah, let's jump into the first game of the round, which is the Dolphins versus the Seagulls. Just from a Supercoach perspective, probably the first player we should talk about is the Dolphins fullback after a poor reasonably poor performance on the weekend. How did you see Fuller, and how do you see him moving forward?
He just didn't really do anything, to be honest. Like he ran a little bit, but there wasn't really the attacking upside we saw in the first two games. Again, there's some rumors as well that the Hammer might be in next week. But so he needs to play well this game. Otherwise, we may not see him until again Origin if they want to chuck him on a wing or something like that. Um, he's definitely no longer a buy, but I think he's at hold for at least this week, and then we reevaluate depending on how he does.
Yeah, I mean, I would go one step further than that and saying that he's like an almost definite play if you have him. So definitely a hold and not a sell. And I would be playing him if I had him. I don't have him, but if I had him in my team, I would be playing him just because I think Manly concede some of the most points to fullbacks. And yeah, I think yeah, the last week was definitely the outlier in some of his performances. I expect a bounce back. I'd be willing to bet that he goes 60 plus or has a good game in this one. So definitely wouldn't be selling, and I would be playing him as well if I had him.
Understandable.
Um, we already briefly touched on Osako, one of the highest traded players in this round. Do you want to just speak to how you feel about Osako? Because I've already sort of spoken myself.
Yeah. So what's his break even? Is it high, low?
It'd be low because he had a big score last round, but I don't think it's heaps low. Oh no,
Yeah.
sorry.
So I'm not sure how.
So it's pretty low.
I'm honestly not sure how I feel about Osako, to be honest. It seems that Hammer prefers, like one of their main attacking weapons, prefers the left edge, and Sako though will kick. Um, yeah, but again, I'm not sure to be honest. I've never really considered him. I know he's obviously a good goal kicker, but other than that, can you really do too much? He's not scoring consistently enough for me, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I It's less about consistency, more about that he's got
Potential.
Herbie Farnworth back in the team, most likely playing inside him. Uh, but yeah, moving forward, and yeah, I just think he's less likely to pass the ball to him. So in terms of scoring tries, I think there's less potential for Osako, but yeah, I mean, it's not impossible that he burns me there. In terms of the rest of the Dolphins players, there's players like Jack Bostock, Max Platts we could touch on.
Yeah,
But I
I
think,
think they've been touched to death at this point by us. We neither of us have them anymore, and it's way too late to get them now.
yeah, and I think Bostock is a sell and Platts just a hold. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're, yeah, too relevant. Let's talk Manly players. Tom Trbojevic still going well. He was on about 70 at halftime and it ended on 90, but you do have to expect that a little bit from fullbacks, and Tommy T in particular. He can be explosive through periods of the game. So you take the good with the bad, but yeah,
Definitely.
still happy with his output, so can't complain in owning him. Garrick. So yeah, we both mentioned we'd probably still ring in Garrick.
Yeah, definitely bring him in now. Otherwise, it's just going to get too late at this point. He is killing it. I don't know what exactly has happened, but he's obviously kicking goals as well, and he's learnt not to pass to Jason Saab. So any tries that edge are going to be his.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so
definitely.
also as well, if you have Jason Saab, that's an immediate sell.
Yeah, I
37
mean,
points.
yes, definitely. Not too much else Supercoach relevant. I guess people might be looking at halves. If you had like a Reynolds or someone like that, probably I wouldn't be looking at DCE as a replacement. I think there's better moves you can make. But yeah, let's talk betting in this one. For myself, I
Yeah.
don't have
So
any. Sorry, I was just going to quick say I don't have
sorry.
anything in this game. Just my initial lean was the Seagulls because they lost last week and the Dolphins won last week. But with some of the outs in the Seagulls and some of the ins in the Dolphins, just less keen on betting on either side. But sorry, you go ahead with your bet.
Yeah, apologies. Yeah, so again, it is my lock of the week. Manly 13 plus, Turbo Garrick anytime at 10.75.
Yep. You just feeling Manly bounce back or any particular reason?
I'm just feeling horny, to be honest. I think the Manly boys going to get it done. We haven't seen a proper Manly throbbing in a while, and the Dolphins, they're on a bit of a slide, even though they did win last week. I don't rate the Cowboys too highly. I think tier-wise, I think Manly are a better team. Most nights, they obviously lost to the Raiders, and I think they'll bounce back with a good throbbing.
Yeah. very Hello Sports style bet from yourself in this one.
Hello who?
Hello Sport.
Hello who?
Um, the next game of the round is the Panthers Bulldogs. A few of the big boys back, Cleary back in the team. For this one, could
Is Cleary certainly back though? Is that a guaranteed thing,
yeah,
or is he just been named like last week? So that I'm kind of quite worried about, and that is why I'm very hesitant to bring him back into my squad. Well, bring him into my squad in Supercoach because I don't know. We found out now just because he's named in this team doesn't mean he's going to be there at the start of the kickoff.
yeah, no, exactly. You are right in that comment there. And I do have him already in my team, but I wouldn't necessarily be bringing him in, as you mentioned, in this one. Just A, because obviously he could be ruled out late, and then B, uh, sort of he's still coming back from that injury, so I don't expect him
Yeah,
to fire massively in this game.
it's
That's
also
not
getting a
saying
bit too close to Origin as well, where I'm not really ready to bring him in for like 2 games before he's out for possibly three.
yeah,
Um, Especially if that price he's at the moment.
yeah. And I think Cleary is like the one player that Matt just said is locked in to play Origin, so
Yeah,
he'll definitely be there. Um, yeah, in terms of other players in this team, Taylor May finally got a decent score on the weekend.
yeah,
You have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. The try he did score was uh, Dylan Edwards taking a tap and then just got through a pretty easy gap. It's
yeah.
still
That was
not,
crazy to see. That's so
yeah,
disappointing to watch from like a rugby league perspective. Like, why are you as a player letting that happen?
yeah. But they're still basically the point I was making. They're still not going to Taylor May's side very much. So just be wary. Still, uh, don't expect massive scores out of him. If you are playing him this week, I probably will still end up playing him just because they are playing the Dogs. But yeah, don't expect huge scores out of him.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely agree with that. Yeah. So Dylan Edwards now
yeah.
is he a viable position at fullback? Do you think, or has he
Yeah, he's
become
the
too
highest
much now?
averaging player in Supercoach at the moment. The only thing I think putting me off him at the moment is that he's been doing so well, he could be playing Origin. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I am pretty hesitant to bring him in for that sole reason. Like,
yeah,
as soon as we know who's going to be their fullback, I probably would have chosen Pappenhausen over him. Even then, is it going to be him or Tedesco at this point? We don't know. So I'm kind of hoping they stick with the old guard so I can get Edwards in my Supercoach team. How about yourself?
yeah, like definitely going to be a good option. The only thing I think is if you look at his scores with and without Cleary, he does a lot better without Cleary in the team. So one thing to be wary of is that Cleary's going to be uh, getting a lot more of the ball, and then Dylan Edwards' scores might dip down. So he could be a player that if he's not playing Origin, you can pick up in a few weeks' time when he's a little bit lower in price, but definitely not a player that I'll be picking up right
Definitely
now.
agree.
And I can speak to who I prefer later on. In terms of the Bulldogs team, there's a few players that have been doing well. Sherry's been doing well. A lot of people picked up Carraz last week. Shouldn't be too warded off by a poor score there, but yeah, like there's not a heap of Bulldogs players that I'm loving for Supercoach, but there's a heap of players that have been solid, like your Matty Burton, your Reed Marnie. If you needed to fill a gap in those positions, you could look to them, but not players that I'm looking towards now. What about
Yeah, I
yourself?
definitely agree with you. I think the ship is well and truly sailed on Josh Curran. If you have him, keep him, but there's no point in bringing him down.
I think you could bring him in if you needed cover for like origin periods. For at the moment, I have Cotter and Terrell May, and there's a good chance Terrell May gets. I mean, Cotter does get
There
picked
is
for.
no way Terrell May plays. He is just way too young. I know like there's a bit of stigma attached to it, but just because he's on the bench, I don't think he's going to be there.
I think he could
Um,
easily play off the bench for Origin though. I don't
I
think
just
there's
don't
no
think he's going to
way.
play.
The only reason I mentioned Terrell May playing is because of how weak New South Wales is in the props. We have Payne Haas, and then outside of that, no one else is anywhere near locked in as a
Tommy
prop.
Hazelton, mate. Tommy Hazelton plays off the
Probably, yeah.
defense.
Payne Haas and Tommy Hazelton, they're the only two players that are locked in the props. No, but he definitely could. So
Yeah, no, okay, I see where you're coming from, but
yeah,
I think Hazelton should play over Terrell May.
that's a crazy take. Terrell May has been way better than Hazleton this season.
Yeah, okay. Well, how many tries has Hazelton scored compared to compared to Terrell May?
That's the best metric to judge a good front rower is the number of tries they score.
It is. We need impact forwards. That's why I want Mitch Barnett playing 20 minutes.
So
Sorry.
Tommy
I want
Hazelton.
Jack Etherington playing 20 minutes off the pine. I want him to go out there, belt someone, and then get off, be sin binned, and never come back on. Is that too
Just
much to ask?
just to follow your logic though, Tommy Hazelton has been a better prop than fucking. He's been the best prop in the NRL this season. He's been a better prop than
Except
Tony
for Noah
Hawks.
Blake. He scored a lot of tries.
Tommy Hazelton probably has more tries than Finn Blake. I don't actually know if that's true, but
I don't know, actually. He scored what, 4 this year. I think Finola
probably
Blake
have a
scored
similar
similar
number, to be
numbers.
honest.
Yeah, Finola Blake scored a double in a game.
Yeah. So, oh no, Tommy Hazelton.
He dropped the ball over the line, you're thinking of.
Yeah. Um, yeah, we got off topic there, but yeah, not too much else in terms of the Bulldogs team. Mostly, if you're having players, they're mostly holds. No standout buys for mine. Do you want to talk your bet in this game?
Yeah, so I'm not sure about you, but I feel like Penrith just aren't playing to their full potential. And the doggies are doing much better than anyone else thought. So I think it's going to be somewhat close-ish. By I mean somewhat between somewhere between 10 and 20 points. I think Penrith won't put them to the sword, but they'll win comfortably and they won't look great doing it. So I'm going to go Panthers 13 plus and River anytime try scorer. You'll love this one. Very, very sensible betting figure at $1.80.
I mean, it's a sensible odds, but it's a bet that I would never put on like at those odds. If you like Panthers to, if you like the Dogs to keep it kind of close, put on like Panthers and Dogs plus 20.5 or something like that. Don't put Panthers 13 plus. Putting any team 13 plus, you should be very confident in that team's ability to put the other team away. You should be expecting they win by 25 if you're putting on 13 plus. Like realistically, you should expect the average score line to be 20 odd.
Okay, but what if it gets up then?
It could very well get up. It's not the type of bet like it is $1.80 for a reason. Like it could very well easily get up. And also,
Actually, bet it could get up. I think it'll get up at $1.80. It'll be the. It actually no, it won't get up solely because it'll be the shortest bet I've ever put on this body, and therefore it won't get up.
yeah. But I mean, in terms of betting for myself in this game, I have nothing because I could easily see the Panthers running away with this one with Cleary back in there. But the Dogs have been very solid this year, and I've got to give them their respect because they've been showing up to most games and especially against good teams as well. They've been showing up. They showed up against the Roosters, Storm, and games such as that.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
give them their
I do
respect.
agree with that. Yeah,
And it seems like we agree, but you still have the opposite logic. You've gone Panthers 13 plus. Anyway,
exactly, exactly.
very very hard of you. Uh, Eels Broncos is the next game. Some massive outs for both teams. What do you think the biggest out is in this game in terms of a player?
Well, you've got one. You've got one. Basically, both teams are missing their biggest attacking players, being Adam Reynolds and Gutho. Reynolds is apparently out for what 3 months? Is that right?
Not sure. Not sure the extent. It's a bicep again. I think similar to what's his name? Fogarty.
Fogarty. Yeah, and then of course Gutho's out as well. He's out for 4 weeks, but given the type of injury, there's some suggestions he may be out on and off for the next couple of years, which is incredibly sad if that's true.
Yep.
So that means Blaze Talangi moves to fullback, and in the Broncos they've got a debutant in Josh Rogers.
Yeah. Let's quickly talk Supercoach relevancy. Obviously, Blaze Talangi as a whole, as I've already mentioned, don't think he's a buy for this week. But you're more confident on Blaze Talangi. We've sort of already touched on that. We said what over under 60 points for Talangi this week. In terms of the rest of their team, someone like an Ethan
Didn't Sean Lane
Sanders.
get suspended?
Sorry.
I swear Sean Lane was suspended.
Yeah, no, I don't, can't. Yeah, no, actually, that does ring a bell. Honestly,
I
I
swear
sold
it
him
was.
and just forgot about him, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
so if you do have Sean Lane, I think now is probably the best time in ever to sell him.
yeah,
Unfortunately, he is not doing well. He's nowhere as good as he was a couple of years ago, and I don't think he's going to reach that point again.
yeah. Like a lot of these Eels options that were options at the beginning of the year, like your Lussick, your Lanes, I would be moving off if you did still have them. Um,
What
some of
about
the
someone
ones.
like Jermaine Hopgood, who's lost a lot of value recently, but he's still playing decent footy? At
Still
what
hold.
point do
I
you
think
think
he's
it'd
going to
be
play
the
Origin
buy?
most likely. So take that into your plans. But for now, still hold. I don't have any issue keeping him. Uh, in terms of the Broncos options, Reece Walsh, people might be scared off by 50, but if you trade him in, expecting him to score 100 every week, you traded in the wrong player. Reece Walsh uh, scores well when the Broncos score a lot of points, and the Broncos didn't score a lot of points last week. He scored 18, but he needs to be involved in a lot of tries for them to be scoring, putting those big scores. And most of the time, he is involved in a lot of their tries. That's why he's a good option, but he is occasionally going to have lower scores. Same with like someone like a Scotty Drinkwater, that they just, by the nature of how they play, need to be involved in tries.
Yeah, definitely. I'd almost go as far to say that Reece Walsh is probably one of the more hot and cold fullbacks.
Yep.
I think he tends to have a lot more quiet games than, say, the likes of Pappenhausen, the Pongers, who will consistently score high, but Reece Walsh can outscore them. If that makes sense.
I would think a better comparison is maybe someone like a Dylan Edwards, where Dylan Edwards is going to be pretty consistently scoring well every week. But yeah, a Reece Walsh could have way higher upside than someone like a Dylan
Yeah,
Edwards.
yeah, I do agree with that.
Yeah. In terms of options for the rest of the team, I mean, Payne Haas is always going to be an option, and he's going to be losing a bit of money next week. There's a world where, with the money I have in my bank, I could make a trade from Sam Hughes to Payne Haas next week. Because I've got about 300K in my bank, which will be a pretty crazy trade to make if I do. But yeah, like he could be an option. He still backs up pretty well after Origin. So um, yeah, I definitely wouldn't count him out as an option moving forward, but probably not for this week. Um, anything
Yeah,
else you
definitely
wanted
agree
to
with that.
mention?
I'd love to have him, but yeah. So Josh Rogers debutant, I am watching very closely. Again, don't bring anyone in their first week. They're never guaranteed another week, and also you don't know how good they're going to play. So I am watching him very keenly. I hope he does well, and then if he does, I'll bring him in 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. He's just a close watch. I don't know that you should be necessarily thinking about bringing him in because Madden would still have the spot over him. So yeah, you just got to keep that in mind that Madden will still have the spot. I think, um, yeah, just take that into account. Rogers has played a few games for them previously, but not many.
Dude,
Yeah, I think like
has he played enough to have a baseline score?
yeah, I think he's played like 4 or 5 games because he's at 260K. So
I swear as a debutant, never mind. But still, yeah, keep on watching him. Yeah, he's a big watch for me.
yeah.
Players like, do you think Willison way too late now?
I'm not interested in Wilson. I'm interested in players that I can sort of hold for a longer period of time. If I'm moving to front row forwards, it's someone like an Anfield Blake or
Yeah, fair
I'm
enough.
not really interested in Wilson at his current price. Um, let's talk bets in this one.
Yeah.
Um,
So I personally have Broncos 13 plus, and because it's essentially destined at this point, I have Sivo anytime try scorer at $6.
yeah, for myself, this is my first bet of the round. I have the Eels plus 9.5. I did say that was my best bet, and that one will be one that I wait till game day to decide whether I put on. Not, well, I will put it on, but I'll hope that that pushes out to 10.5. Just quickly, why I like the Eels in this one. They're sort of a bit of the ugly duckling syndrome. They've not been favoured recently, just with some of the performances they've put out. But a really poor performance against the Dolphins, but they're off a bye. They'll be well rested. It's in Sydney. Their pack still looks reasonably strong, and a key player in Adam Reynolds out for the Broncos. And it's not like Jock Madden, who was very solid for them in previous weeks, comes in. It's Josh Rogers as their third string halfback in there, and I don't trust Ezra Mann to step up to do any of the ball playing to do any of the ball playing in that team. So I uh, I like the Eels in this one, even though Gutherson is out and Gutherson is big for them. Blaze Long is a good young player, and I think he could step up to keep it close at least. But yeah, possibly
Yeah,
Broncos in a tight one, but definitely like Eels line in this one.
Look, I just don't think that Dylan Brown's in a position to run an attack by himself. I don't think he's getting better at it, but I still don't think he is consistent enough to do so. And I think Broncos just score more points. I think I think the Broncos will end up scoring more points, and it will be by more than 14, by 13 or more. But yeah, you do you, I guess.
Yeah, I mean Dylan Brown's been hit and miss in that position. Like I'm not going to try and hide from that. Like he's had a last couple of weeks against Manly and the Dolphins. He hasn't been good, but they had a win against the Cowboys before that. So he has been hit and miss in the position. But yeah, at that number of points, a 9.5, 10.5, I'm happy to take the Eels in that position, especially
Understandable.
with Reynolds out. You want to talk about a playmaker that hasn't done well when he's meant to be the dominant playmaker. That's Ezra Mann
I do
playing
agree with that.
all
Yeah.
around. The next game of the round is
Coming
the
from all the way from the country music capital, Tam Vegas, if you will.
Cam Vegas game of the
Tam
round.
Vegas. Game of the round, indeed. Can't wait to see this one. How do you see this going?
Uh, I mean, we're both Knights fans, so hopefully big Knights victory in this one. Yeah, like the Knights have been very solid in the last few weeks. So yeah, betting wise, wouldn't necessarily want to bet against them, but logically betting the Tigers have been a bit unlucky the last couple of weeks. So probably the Tigers would be the team you should be looking at in this one. But let's talk Supercoach firstly. Probably the player we should touch on is David Armstrong. We have already touched on him, but is there anything else you can add about David Armstrong?
Not really, to be honest. He's a dirt cheapie. He likely has that spot locked down for at least another 2 months, unless Ponga somehow has a second coming, recovers very quickly. Um, Other than that, not really much to say. Other than I think he will go up in price and he will score consistently.
Yeah, sorry, you just dropped out for a second, but yeah, basically go up in price, score more consistently.
So
Um, yeah, you were going to speak to Greg Marzu earlier. Would you like to touch on him a bit though?
yeah, look, they're not going left as much as they used to. Injury as well. That's caused his value to go down significantly. Do you know how much he is right now?
He's 500, I think.
500. This is the guy that was scoring tries for fun to the point he averaged a try a game at one point, I think over like 13, 14 weeks. I think he might be a genuine buy, but I do.
Sorry, you just dropped out for 1 second there. You said he might be a genuine buy, but what was the last bit?
I just want to see him score a try first. I want to see him put up a decent score, just so we know he can do that again. But I'm not going to touch him until he scores that try.
Yeah, I think he could be definitely a player that we look at in the next couple of weeks. He's playing around 13, so he'd be great buy around coverage, especially if you can get him at under 500K, and then just
I'll
hold him
agree.
this season. Because when Pong is back, he'll be good. He should be worth around 700K. So don't need him this week, but moving forward, definitely could become an option.
Definitely.
Uh, in terms of the Knights, you already spoke to that you think KPP is due. Just with
He is so due. He is so due. It's got to happen at some point. Call him a Korean beverage because he's so due.
nice. Um, just in terms of how you think he goes, Dylan Lucas on the bench and Frizzell back in the back row, do you think that affects his minutes at all?
I think he's going to stay an 80-minute player, but I think we need to wait and see.
Yeah.
Dylan Lucas has played front row previously. He may just join that front row rotation. Frizzell's obviously coming back from injury as well, so I don't think he's going to play 80. But again, what I think Lucas plays 50 minutes. I think he'll probably play 30 minutes on the right edge, second row. I just don't know what he does for that other 20.
Yeah. I wouldn't be, yeah, same sort of thoughts. Wouldn't be worried about KPP at the moment. Yeah, definitely hold for now and then wait and see. In terms of the Tigers options, Lockie Galvin's one that's going to come up every week. Are you happy to hold and continue to play him, or what's
I
your
think
plan?
we'll keep on playing him. He's a guy that we've noticed that a lot of players in our comp have. And I think a majority of Supercoach players are playing him anyway. So even if he doesn't do too well, it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, no, look, thinking less about whether he. I just think you're definitely playing him on matchup. I expect him to do decently well still in this game, but could max out in the next couple of weeks. So just a player that you got to be aware that if he comes into some tough fixtures, could do poorly, and you might want to jump off then. But yeah, for now, definitely a hold. Uh, so is Api Coruscant still just a hold? Probably plays Origin, but for now a hold and hope that he plays. And then someone like a Sammy Fino, probably a hold and might turn into a buy if he picks up a decent score, but he hasn't had the massive scores yet. Do you have any differing thoughts on any of those players?
Yeah, so Api Coruscant is a player I was considering bringing him in at no matter what price, given how pretty barren hookers are at the moment. But given he's got that back injury and he seems to be kind of week in, week out, I would not touch him at all. Like, I'm very concerned. Again, he could play Origin as well, but I'm really worried that I'll end up picking him up and he'll be out for like 2 weeks in a row with that spinal injury.
Yeah, it wasn't so much spinal. I think the
So
injury, it was like
wasn't a
back
slip disc,
muscles. Yeah,
was
no,
it?
it was more back muscles, like tightness in the back muscle. I've had a very similar injury, and I don't think it's a very high re-injury risk in that one. So yeah, I wouldn't be too much worried about like that one persisting, but it could mean potentially that he's rested this week again. But that's your only real worry. If you're looking at buying him, that's not so much a worry. But yeah, I don't blame you for not necessarily wanting to jump on him this week. Um, Anything else to add, or you just want to jump into your bet in this game?
Look, let's go straight to the betting. I'm feeling a Knights ambush here. We've won the past two. I think the Knights have finally clicked. All it took was Ponga to go down. So I'm going Knights 13 plus. Greg Marzu is unbelievably due, and so is Kai Pierce Paul. That together is 1575, and I'm going to kiss those boys in the head when they score.
Nice. Yeah, I would love to see Knights 13 plus as a Knights fan, but not betting on this game. I think the Tigers will offer a lot. I think they've been fairly unlucky in the last couple of weeks. So there was a team that you're going to lean towards would have to be the Tigers, but the Knights sort of hard to know exactly what to expect from them. They've been very solid in the wet weather recently. They've churned out some tough wins, and they could easily churn out another tough win again. If you get a big enough plus on the Tigers, though, I think that's going to be a reasonably safe bet. But um, yeah, just no bet in this one for Mike.
So one bet I would also consider doing, but I cannot do it from an ethical standpoint, would be going unders points. So the point line is 44.5. It's likely to rain, but there is nothing worse than betting on a game and hoping no one scores tries.
I
So
mean,
again, I
yeah,
think that line will probably hit, but I just don't want it to happen.
yeah, fair enough. That's probably one that you watch and see like how the weather end up looking sort of
Yeah,
game
check
day.
the bomb a couple days in advance. If it looks like it's going to be soaking in Tamworth, get on.
Yeah, yeah. The next game of the round was the Dragons versus the Warriors, versus the Rabbitohs. Sorry, not the Warriors.
Those.
Um, yeah, this one is a very injury-ridden Rabbitohs team, but Latrell back. So we should probably speak to Latrell first. What do you think his impact is? How well do you think he goes in this game?
I genuinely don't know. He's had probably two good games this season at most. And since then, he's kind of been a passenger in this team. I don't know what he wants to play for. I'm not sure if it's some sort of mental thing. He's just not playing good footy, or he just doesn't want to be there. But I don't really know if he's going to be a benefit or a negative to this team. It seemed like Gray was playing better footy than him, to be honest.
Yeah, no. If you're bringing in someone, if you're thinking about bringing in a Latrell for example, a Pappenhausen out, you just mindset to Supercoach is just you're very high risk, high reward type of operator because there's by all means he could go really well, but it could go really badly as well. So there's the risk and reward factor in this one. He could be a player we look at if he continues to pick up some poor scores, and then it could be very cheap, and then we pick him up. But for mine, like it's just not worth it at this point in time when there's options that are actually sort of scoring well, decently well consistently. So yeah, not
And
an
keep in
option for
mind,
mine.
this guy is both injury and suspension prone as well. I just don't think it's a good idea to spend what the 700k required on him.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And there's not too many other really super coach options uh in the Rabbitohs. We can speak to some of their outs when we talk about betting, but uh, let's talk about the Dragons team. Is Lomax someone that you're still looking at? You did say you were going to be looking at him possibly this week, or
Yeah, so I would have brought him in, but for the injury to Ryan Pappenhausen. Unfortunately, things happen. Yeah, so I would like to have Zach Daddy in my team, but at the same time, he's going down in value at the moment, but also he has been moved back to the wing, so I really like that.
yeah,
If the Dragons score points, Zach Daddy will do well. He loves it. He loves a kick chase. He loves to get the assists based off that. I think he's still a buy, even if he's 700k. But again, if you can't afford him, don't stress too much.
yeah. I think there's three or four better options at the center wing for this week. Garrick, a Young, I would definitely prefer over a Lomax. And yeah, there's a small chance he plays Origin as well. So a few factors you have to think about with Lomax there. So I'm not really looking at him anytime soon. Um,
Understandable.
in terms of the rest of the team, player we have to touch on is Tom Eisenhuth. Well,
Don't
six
you hate this? That
tackles.
he's another one of the players I brought in first week, and he just does so fucking well.
Yeah, 66 tackles, which is the most in a game by any player all season so far. Um, yeah, you must be pretty. Did you play him this week?
Of course I did. Why would I not play my Eisen Daddy?
Yeah, yeah. But he had 66 tackles and scored what 70 something, right?
Yeah,
So
so he scored 70 something, but the week prior he scored in the low 30s.
yeah,
That was because he had to play center the entire game after Moses Sully essentially died.
yeah.
But I think he's a genuine get if you want a decent second rower for not too much. But wait until 2 weeks until that rolling average kind of ignores that score.
Yeah, it would be next
Was
week
it
when you
next week? Sorry, yeah, wait until next week for that rolling average to disappear.
you could still pick him up this week because they have that decent score last week. But yeah, I mean, he'll be solid. Like I don't, he's not going to make 66 tackles every week, obviously, because that's the highest number of tackles. But he'll put up a lot of tackles, and he's going to be a very meat and potatoes type player. But
He's scored like a handful of tries this year as well. I think there's some genuine upside to him.
yeah, not in my opinion, not much. Like some of the tries, he's like if he's playing how he did on the weekend, he's not going to score many tries. It's just a bit of a tackle bot. Uh,
You know, sometimes.
yeah, let's talk betting in this game. For myself, and one of the bets I mentioned that I got on early was the Dragons -2. You get that $1.90 odds on Neds and Ladbrokes. They're now out to I think around -5.5, maybe even -6.5. Uh, I liked them -2 because I knew Hawkins was going to be out. I knew they had a few outs. So yeah, obviously Hawkins, they've got Dion Papola, Tilpa, something. Oh, Cam Murray was the obvious other big one. And then you got players like Isaiah Tass out as well.
And
And
you've
then
got Jai Arrow, who probably shouldn't be playing either. Like, apparently he's seriously injured and he's been told that effectively you can't get more injured, so you may as well play.
yeah, yeah. But you look at the outside backs, they got like Shibasaki, Chi Cam and stuff playing in the outside backs, like
I
pretty
can't
tough.
believe Shidasaki's made his way back to first grade. I
Yeah.
thought he'd be done after Newcastle.
Yep. Um, yeah, so Ken on the Dragons -2 in this one. If the line was to push +6.5, probably not keen on the Dragons, but definitely don't mind it at like a 4.5 or a 3.5 if you can get that.
Understandable. Yeah, I think the Dragons run away with this, to be honest. I think Latrell Mitchell kind of gives up halfway through the game. Him and Walker seem to tend to do that, which is really disappointing from them. That they realize the game's getting away from them, they stop trying. So I think the Dragons can win by 20. So I've got Dragons -19.5, Lomax 10 plus points, and Lomax to score, as well as Ravalawa to score as well, because Ravalawa is going to be running at Shitasaki. And Shitasaki, I'm not sure if he's improved, but he was not very good at Newcastle. Defensively terrible. And Ravalawa is, not to make a comparison, but I think he is in the same mold as Sivo, but better. So I think that will happen at 9:25.
Yeah, yeah, Ravloa does like a try, so not a bad shout there. The next game of the round is the Storm Sharks game. Fair few Supercoach relevant players in this one, especially with some of the outs for the Storm. Um, Pappenhausen and Hughes being the biggest two outs in this one. Uh, Already briefly touched on it, still far longer, but how do you feel about him as an option moving forward?
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed as well. I've got Grant Anderson playing the wing. It's
Yeah,
not great. Would he play left or right wing?
not sure. But sorry, far longer. How do you feel about him?
Again, he may be injured right now, so I would wait and see until, if you want him, I guess wait until the hour before he's named, just to make sure he's there. But I think he might be a decent pickup. But again, is he injured? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely a player I would be much, much, much more keen to look at next week than this week. The Sharks are going to be a solid opposition, so it's not like he definitely scores massive. Um, Even if he didn't score massive in this round and he looks solid, I'll be looking to pick him up next week regardless. But if you can help it, help it. Don't pick him up this week.
What is his?
Uh,
Is he a dual position?
yeah, center wing fullback. Yeah,
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I definitely would consider moving to him from a Raiders player that I currently have.
yeah, yeah. Um, for the Storm, Cam Munster still there. Had a more quiet week last week, but he's going to do that. He's going to be a bit hot and cold, even though he did have a try. Um, yeah, you'd be a bit disappointed if you're an owner, but like it is what it is. He'll pick back up again. I'm not really worried if you do own him, but I definitely wouldn't be looking at buying him.
So what
Um,
happened with Jerome Hughes? Is he injured or suspended?
Injured, yeah.
Okay, but how long is he out for?
Not sure exactly the length of the injury. I can find that out. Um, but yeah, yeah, I can speak to my bets in terms of this one with the injuries, but yeah, a few injuries, and then also on top of uh on top of Hughes being out, they also have Pezzett out, so their halves are always going to be weaker. And
Sure.
as good as Wishart's been in some games, I just don't love him as their starting seven.
I strongly
Um,
agree. They call him Sharp for a reason.
yeah, so it says calf for and round 13 due back for Jerome Hughes.
Fair enough. I was actually considering bringing him in just because of how well he's done, but
Yeah,
can't do that now.
yeah. And then yeah, Pappenhausen round 14 expected back. And then yeah, Xavier Coates still not there. Um, in terms of Supercoach options, yeah, like obviously you should be looking to trade off someone like Pappenhausen or Jerome Hughes. Um, but let's talk Sharks options. First one you want to touch on is your boy. Again, you can.
Tommy Hazelton.
They seem
Uh,
like the biggest plotters ever. These players you fucking pick up, like your Tommy Hazelton, your Eisenhuth, but they just
they
go
just
well for you,
continually score. I don't know what it is, but he is an absolute legend, and I'm glad like fans are getting behind him as well. I consider myself a pioneer. Call me the as the call me the head Hazelhead, if you will. Hazelholt? Does that work?
Hazelhold.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like join the Hazelholt. How's that sound?
yeah,
Yeah, I absolutely love him. I'm kind of worried though. He's scoring really well per minute, but the problem is he's scoring these tries and his base stats aren't that great, just given that he's not playing that long. He's only
yeah.
playing about 40 minutes per game. He played 25 2 weeks ago and he still got 60. But I'm really concerned that if he doesn't score that try, his base stats just might not be good. Yeah, but
Still
still, he's
fine.
scoring tries, and I would kiss him on the cock right now.
Yeah, like yeah, you're living an absolute dreamland. It's dreamland at the moment with someone like Tommy Hazelton, putting up the scores that he is. But like he's not a player you have to worry about his base being bad until starts to turn out bad performances. Then you can just trade off. Like it's an absolute dream with Tommy Hazelton at the moment.
The
Um,
problem is that a lot he's losing minutes as these players slowly come back. In good news for him, apparently Toby Rudolph's out for another 4 weeks, so he will continue to get that 50. But I'm just really worried he's going to get another 25 minutes again. Even though he's starting, he's not guaranteed minutes.
yeah. Let's talk some other Sharkies players. Kale Ero still doing well, still
He's
a
doing
hold.
great.
Could be a season hold, honestly. The way he's basing in this team, Hasn't had that much attacking output. He had a line break on the weekend, but so solid. Very, even though he's
Yeah,
making a few errors, very happy with what
he's
he's
still
doing
making
at the
insane
Sharks.
numbers for a center who's not scoring. How is he doing it? Is it base stats or is he making a ton of
A lot of
tackles or
runs,
something?
yeah, a lot of runs. Yeah, so definitely can't complain about Heroes output and definitely a hold, possibly a long-term hold. Nico Hines probably
And
went under what people expected on the weekend.
he still broke $1 million. How insane is that?
Yeah,
The last player I think I remember breaking 1 million was Nathan Cleary back in 2022. I think it was.
yeah. I mean, I feel like Nico might have broken it, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, that's an insane number. Is it too late to get Nico, or do you try to build up to him still?
Definitely, in my opinion, it's definitely too late as a non-Nico owner. They come into a really tough run of fixtures, so it'll be can't remember the order, but obviously Storm, and then I think it's Broncos, Roosters, and then 13, and then Panthers, something like that. Very tough run of fixtures for the Sharkies. Yeah, at this point in time, I wouldn't be looking to bring in any Sharkies players. You don't necessarily have to sell any that you own unless there's someone like Ronaldo Mulatalo you could think about selling. But yeah, for mine, I think it is too late to own Nico. Not that you will never own him. I'll definitely own him for the run home, but for the next. So I've got it up now. They got the Storm this round, then the Roosters, then the Panthers, and then the Eels in round 13, which likely there's a decent chance that Nico plays Origin, so I missed that. Then they got the Broncos straight after. So that's a very tough run of games. So yeah, just beware. Like this is the reason I didn't bring him in earlier, just because it does have that tough run coming up. So just be wary of that.
Yep, strongly agree with that. I mean, at the same time, though, everybody has him. Does it really matter too much if you don't have him? So does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it does. If he's going to go and score 140 every week, then it doesn't matter. You're going to fall a long way back. Like I would fall a long way back in not owning him. But yeah, I don't think he's a must own at the moment with the run of fixtures. Even though he could still put up, he's still going to score 100 plus, I reckon, in a few of these games. But he's not going to score 100 plus in all of these games that justifies
Yeah,
his.
no, I get that. Yeah.
Um, Ronaldo Mulatalo, I briefly touched on. It doesn't look like they're going that his way, but do you think that's because of the weather, or what would you be selling him if you owned him? What's your thoughts on
I still have him. I think again, like I said earlier, I think it's the first time he hasn't scored like in back-to-back games in a long time. Don't quote me on that though, but I'm kind of concerned about him. He's not taking any runs either, but he has this tendency to score no points and then suddenly get a line break and a try, meaning that he's essentially doubled his points in one play.
Yeah.
So I would not necessarily, I'd still hold him, I'd still play him, but I would probably wait and see with him if you're thinking about bringing him in. His price is going down, and again, like you said, there's no guarantee they go left anymore.
Yeah, for mine, if I had him this week, I would sell him because the makeup of my team, I ended up selling Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, and I think he's more of a sell than Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Like I have a decent center wing already, and I wanted to bring in center wings because I think this is a good week to bring in like your Armstrongs, your Youngs, players like that. And yeah, like he's definitely a better sell than RTS in my opinion, with how little they're going his way, and then also they've got a very tough run of fixtures like, that I've already mentioned. So I think he's a sell personally at this point in time, but I don't hate it if you hold him, but definitely not a buy.
Understandable.
Britton Nickera was someone that was a buy I bought last week, and he did well. Uh, Sort of similar boat in that I don't think he's necessarily a buy this week, but he was at a really good price last week. Do you have
I
anything
think
to
with
add on him?
Nikora, he has the exact opposite problem with Ronaldo. If they continue attacking down that right side, I think he's a must buy because that Sharks second row will score a lot of points. But if
Yeah.
they go back to attacking the left side, then he's not going to get any ball anymore.
Yeah, I
So
mean that's a watch and see, but I just think Sharks players in general at the moment are not necessarily trades in with the run of fixtures they have.
fair enough.
In saying that, let's jump into bets though, just because even though I've said I dislike the Sharks, I am on the Sharks this week. Luckily, I got on the Sharks plus 6.5, which was the line at the time. Uh, that's because I knew at least Pappenhausen would be out, and just with Pappenhausen out, I was happy to take 6.5. And then also there was a good chance that Hughes was out. I knew Pezzett was out for the season, so it was going to be someone not as good coming into the half position, and then Coates still out. That I've already mentioned there. So a weaker Storm team than usual, and pretty much a full strength Sharks team that's been absolutely killing it. That could even full strength versus full strength could go down there and upset the Storm. So very happy to take the plus 6.5. What about yourself in this one?
Yep. So I'm just taking the Sharks head to head in this one, even though it is in Melbourne. The Sharks are playing good footy, and I think they're ready and keen to take away that kind of the stigma they have of being a like flat track bullies, basically. I think this is going to be their first big win, even though Melbourne are missing a couple big players. Saying that though, I'm going to take Sharks head to head, and I think Ronaldo is unbelievably due. So is Tommy Hazelton. He's going to score 4 weeks in a row, so I've got those two anytime with Sharks bet at $12.
Yeah, yeah. I still probably like the Sharks. So obviously the lines shifted quite a bit. If I had to play, like I know my head play a line, I'd still probably take the Sharks. That's how good the 6.5 was in this one. But let's jump on to the next game. Uh, Roosters versus the Warriors. There's a heap of relevant players in this one. Trade-ins, trade-outs, probably a lot of trade-outs for the Warriors, probably most likely due to their recent form, and then probably a lot of trades in for the Roosters. Just looking at the top 10 traded in lists, there's currently 4 Roosters out of that 10. Um, uh, any of those players, Roosters players, someone that you would be looking at for this round or moving forward?
Yep, so I brought in Gus Crichton because I think everyone should be on the Gus bus at this point. He is playing some of the best footy ever in his career, and it's fun to see. Even though I have bullied him mercilessly on this podcast for having 9 fingers, it appears he can hold the ball without that. So I think everyone should have him. You're high on Dom Young, so am I. I did have him prior to his suspension, then traded him out immediately. Other than that, who else is there? Yeah,
Hey, James.
again, another player. Connor Watson's playing good footy.
Yep.
Victor Radley is playing decent footy as well. Not so much as the others, but he's still playing really well. Is there anyone I missed other than Taylor May?
Yeah, so Tedesco's in the top 10 traded in this round.
Really? Okay.
Myself, still not a player I'm looking at. He's in the top 10 because Pappenhausen's out, and people are looking at someone that's been doing well recently, and then that they think, oh, Tedesco likes. But you got to think he's playing Origin. Well, not definitely, but there's a good chance
Yeah.
he plays Origin. If he doesn't play Origin, you've traded him in this round. You're incredibly lucky that um that's happened for yourself. But still, he's been in good enough form that there's a good chance that he still plays Origin. So you got to be wary of that. I wouldn't be trading him in. Be trading in a safer option in terms of much less likely to pay Origin, like a Drinkwater. Yeah, I touched on Dom Young briefly already, but yeah, like he's been scoring really well, and he pulls out pretty freakish plays to get those big attacking outputs, which is what you want in your Supercoach players. You want someone with high attacking upside, even though he does look sort of poor, like especially in that Bulldogs game, he looked awful defensively. Don't read into that too much. You're not necessarily trying to buy a player that's
Yeah, you're not trying to buy an all-round player. You're trying to buy a
yeah,
player who makes points. And if
yeah,
you miss a tackle without touching him, it doesn't go towards it at all. So
yeah. But even and missed tackles only 2 points, whereas if you put
yeah,
negative 2 points, but if you're pulling out like crazy tries, that's a lot more points. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, no, I get it, man.
you definitely want to target players with a high attacking upside, which Dom Young has. Um, Also, just want to touch briefly on Sam Walker. I did say previously I liked him. He was a player that I was looking at. I thought about trading Sean Johnson out to him, but there's just a lot of better trades this week for mine. And yeah, like I'm still pretty high on Sam Walker in the way the Roosters are playing. I definitely think he's one of the better Supercoach halfback options, but I'm just holding SJ at the moment. His score would have been hampered by the the rain last week, and he's still got a 40 something. So can't complain too much from SJ's score last week. You mentioned Gussie Crichton. For myself, I wouldn't be trading in Gus Crichton this week, which is maybe a bit of a controversial take. I already own
That's
him, so
very, very controversial.
I already own him, so maybe like a bit hypocritical to say that, but just with Cam
I think
Murray
you can
now
keep
out,
him.
yeah, with Cam Murray out for an extended period, I think Gus Crichton plays Origin, so I think you're trading him in very close to Origin. You're running a pretty big risk, and he doesn't play round 14 either, I don't think. So if he does play all three Origins, hypothetically, you're missing 13, 14, 16, 19. And I have to double check the rest of their buys, but you're missing quite a few games there for Gussie Crichton. So that's just something to take into account if you bring him in.
Understandable. Yeah, I get that. I still think you're keeping a man though.
Yeah. Terrell May, killer performance. Don't expect it every week. Just
I'm
hold.
still so confused by how many minutes he gets. Like, what is going on there?
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly right. He's yeah, like he can have big swings in terms of being a player, and like just hold. Like yeah, there's nothing more to sort of speak to Terrell May. Connor Watson was the other one. Wouldn't buy Connor Watson. As good as he has been off the bench for them, he's still coming off the bench for them. He's in the 14 role.
Yeah, again,
It's
not
Radley back.
guaranteed minutes, especially with Radley back as well.
Yeah,
Who knows how many? It's really hard with this Roosters team because it's really hard to tell how Robbo's going to use his players, and
yeah,
it seems to change week in, week out. So I don't like the ability. I don't like using a utility because I don't know where he's going to play. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. Is he going to play hooker? Apparently, Brandon Smith is 50-50 to play as well.
yeah.
If he plays hooker, would you be interested in having Connor Watson in your team just for that week?
Still no. Like even if he's yeah, I mean, if you know he's playing 80, like yes, I guess he's a trade-in option. But there's just so much risk around like when's Smith going to be back, like when's each role going to be available, and you just don't know for sure. Um, what's going to happen with Watson. So that's why I don't really love it.
Oh yeah, definitely agree with you though.
Let's talk some of these Warriors players. What I mentioned here is the Chance Newland-Constad, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Even though I've already spoken to how I'm trading Roger Tuivasa-Sheck out, both of those players are just a hold for mine. Generally, I just check trading Roger out because of the makeup of my team. I have a strong center wing, and I want to get in Dom Young, but Roger's still a hold. He could still put in some big performances, and CNK still a hold. One bad performance is not going to determine his how he goes moving forward. Tomorrow mine,
Yeah,
here's another one. Do you want to touch on your thoughts on tomorrow mine?
I think he's a sell to be honest. I think he's peaked in value. He's no longer really offering anything in attack either. Those really exciting high scores we saw in his first two games kind of dissipated out of nowhere. How long has Metcalf got as well? Like, I think he's probably going to be out of the squad soon, to be honest. I think we might get lucky, us T and the owners, and he might potentially be replaced by Harris Tavita. But I would never consider purchasing him now. And I think if you have him, it's time to look to moving on. Do you
Yeah,
agree?
to an extent, I would be moving on soon, but it's just difficult because there's not many other options at the 5'8". I'm just holding him for the foreseeable future, hoping he picks up some good scores, but not super confident in him. He doesn't look amazing in a Warriors team that hasn't been great, so there is that. Sean Johnson, I've got in my team. He's for mine just a hold um, until we see a game where he's very negatively affected by that supposed injury that he has. I'm going to continue to hold. Last week's 40 odd, um, you have to take into account it was pretty wet.
Yeah, it
So
was it was pissing down. It was borderline biblical at times. So
yeah,
if you have a
yeah,
bad score there, it's not too bad.
yeah. And then someone like an Adam Finnell-Blake still got a 66 in that weather, so he just proves that he's still a gun. And you're not complaining with that if you've got him. So
Isn't
yeah,
Fanua Blake like comfortably the highest scoring front row forward as well?
would not surprise me. I mean, Payne Haas's average is probably close to his, but obviously,
Yeah,
Blake's
he's
played a
been
lot
out for
more
a
than
couple
him.
of games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, he's 74.8 versus 65.5 for Payne Haas. So yeah, he's definitely still a great option though. Like 66 is still very, very good in those conditions. Anyone else to touch on Supercoach wise?
Not that I can think of. No.
Let's talk bets in this one. Um, what did you have?
Yep. So I kind of see this game with less injuries kind of having the exact same outcome as the Broncos game. I think what's going to happen is these Warriors forward looked super tired last week. They couldn't break through at all, and they just didn't have the mental ability at the end of the game. So I think we're going to see a very similar thing. I think the Roosters will put on a lot of points towards the end, especially through the middle. So I think we get a repeat. Roosters 13 plus. Dom Young scores. Angus Crichton scores, and Terrell May scores as well.
Yeah, I hate that bet. That's
55 bucks.
very much, in my opinion, just chasing last week's points. Like just
Sometimes you
last
got to
week,
chase, you got to chase to and
last
to
week
win it.
Brighton and May scored. Well, like those three try scorers scored. So yeah, I hate that as a bet. It's going to be way undervalued. Um,
He's
so
725 to score. I think it's definitely still value.
I mean, off the bench, he could easily take 20 minutes. So
Yeah, exactly. But if he doesn't, then good value there.
yeah, but I mean, I guess it's a high risk, high reward bet, but yeah,
Like
I
I'm
would
fairly
never.
certain Alex Twall would be around similar numbers, so I think he's value.
Yeah, but I would never ever play Alex Twal. So just comparing it to Alex Twal is not a way of saying that it is value. It's just a way of saying that Alex Twal is never going to be value.
Okay, think
Um,
about it this way, right? Greyhound track, the number one, the winner, is the one that chases the fastest. So I am chasing it, and I will win this race.
elite logic, right?
Yeah. So how about yourself?
Um, yeah, so I obviously think differently about this game. The Warriors off a few losses will be keen to bounce back in this one. The Roosters have been putting points on, but they've also been conceding points. They conceded 36 points across the last two games, so 18 points to both teams that they've played, and that 18 points was a Broncos team without Reynolds there for a large period of the game, and a Dragons team that looked very, very lackluster. They obviously conceded 60 points, so they didn't have much of the ball and still scored 18 points. So I've got the Warriors over 15.5 total points, which is their line currently. I'll probably wait till later on just to confirm the weather before I do play this one. But even if it is a bit wet, I still like that as a bet. This could still be a case where the Roosters win well and the Warriors, the over 15.5 points still gets up. Yeah, so I like that in terms of these teams that the Roosters have played that haven't necessarily had all their attacking guns and they still manage to score some points. So yeah, 15.5 feels pretty safe form line in this one. Anything to add, or should we jump into the last game of the round?
Yep, let's go to the last game, which is the Titans v Cowboys. Biggest out for this game would be Tanner Boyd, who went off early last week, as we mentioned. That brings Chris Randall into 5'8", their hooker, who is a known tackle bot. I've never seen him play the ball. I've never seen him kick the ball. I genuinely think that they're going to be playing Kieran Foran through the middle as the main playmaker and the only playmaker. So it's going to be very weird to watch.
Yeah, no, like Randall at 6 is a very weird one. I have no idea what to expect from that. I guess they just don't have anyone else because normally Brumo would play there, but JC is still out. So uh, yeah, very weird one. In Randall being there, just super coach wise, let's talk to AJ Brimson because he's one that's been thrown up a lot as one of the replacements um for Pappenhausen. Is he someone that you thought about in the fullback position?
Yeah, I've definitely thought about him. He's again not going to play over Origin. The only problem with him is that I've got a really weird worry that Desi may think it might be a good idea to bring Jaden Campbell back there. He's
Yeah.
clearly a better fullback, but the problem is that do you show loyalty to the guy whose position it was before AJ Brimson?
Yeah, I think it's less about showing loyalty to the guy. I think it's just more about like the depth in their squad at the moment. They're playing Randall at 6. If this goes on for a couple of weeks and JC comes back, you would think they would have to play Brimo at 6. Like that, it's unfortunate, but like they just don't have any other options. So just for that reason, I don't like him in the fullback slot. But I mean, everything else points to yes for Brimo for that high upside, most likely, unless there's an absolute nightmare in Origin. He most likely won't play Origin. But yeah, a lot of upside to Brimo, and he looks really good in the fullback slot there. But yeah, I prefer the other fullback in this game. And we can jump into talking about Scotty Drinkwater if you want.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, Scotty Drink Liquid, definitely a good player. He's doing awesome at the moment. It seems like whenever the Cowboys do well, he will have a big score. He is their main attacking conduit, to be honest. He's a guy I'm definitely looking to replace my two fullbacks with once they inevitably lose their game time. But what about yourself?
Yeah. The Cowboys in the next three have the Titans, who are the second highest points conceded per game, the Rabbitohs, who are the highest points conceded per game, and then the Tigers as well. I don't know where they're at, but they concede a few points. It's currently 16th, 17th, and 15th. I expect some big scores from Scotty Drinkwater in the coming weeks. He also plays the Roosters in round 13, and there's a good chance like someone like Teddy isn't playing, if someone like Gussie Crichton isn't playing. So it'll be an understrength Roosters. Just love Scotty Drink with the fixtures that he's got coming up, and I think he's pretty much a slam dunk option considering the lack of options in the fullback. I think this is one of those things. Just don't ever think it. Like Scotty Drink is the best option. They've done poorly. Like the people might be off him because they have done poorly recently, but the Cowboys are going to come back eventually. Public favor switches far too much at the beginning of the year. Everyone was high on the Cowboys, and I wasn't as high because public favor swung too much towards them. And then, as kind of expected, it's swung back the other way when they've lost a few games. Just don't buy too much into that. Scotty Drink is going to be very good over the next month, and yeah, slam dunk buy for mine.
Yep, fair enough. So any other players you want to mention at all?
Yeah. So you wanted to touch on Fafita for the Titans?
Yep. So we spoke about him earlier, but I think he is a great final boss kind of player for your team. He's consistently scoring high. We thought his value was going to go down, but it never did. I think if you can afford to get him, I want to get on him as soon as possible. But keep in mind that Origin period, and he will more than likely end up playing for Queensland as well. So
yeah. I mean, yeah.
so
Sorry, the
so
only
another
other
player, Val Holmes. Do you think it might be time to get off him? He's had a couple quiet games. Or do you think Val Holmes is a lock?
same sort of theory as Drinkwater. I wouldn't be selling because they've got that crazy run of fixtures coming up. I looked as well, and they're also paying. I think they got 14, 15, 16, 17 in the next 5 games. So yeah, Val Holmes definitely not a trade out, probably not a trade in necessarily because could lose some value, but he's going to do well. I think still goal kicking. He's going to pick up some more attacking stats shortly. Even though he did frustrate me on the weekend, he's going to come back. So definitely not worried about Val Holmes at all. Not worried about any of these Cowboys players if I do own them. Someone like a Ruben Cotter went massive on the weekend, but it's just had a try. So don't read too much into that. But yeah, no. Otherwise, not too much else Supercoach relevant. Do you
Yeah,
want to
no,
jump into
definitely.
your bet in this game?
Yep. So, in my opinion, the Titans are getting better and better. We saw that last week. I think that they are going to win this one again. I think it'll be close. Tanner Boyd's out, but we've seen that it doesn't really matter that much. At the very worst, I think the Titans keep it close. But I've got the Titans to win. They've defeated score any time at $4.33.
Yeah, I have the sort of direct opposite opinion that the public opinion, in my opinion, public opinion has shifted too far towards the Titans. Everyone's really high on the Titans, even though they have been performing well. You can't put too much stock into them. They've they've had a win, so they're not sort of desperate for that first win now. And the Cowboys have had a few losses recently, so they'll be up for this game, and it's a rivalry, so I expect them to be especially up for this game. Chris Randall in the halves, I don't expect to perform well. That could be a, a big low point for the Titans there. So do really like the Cowboys and Chad Townsend back as well in the halves. We'll just settle them. Clifford wasn't particularly good for them. So yeah, just love the Cowboys in this spot. So I'm taking the Cowboys minus 3.5. Are you interested in a side bet on this game?
Oh, most certainly. I am comfortable in that. In fact, I'm willing to take you at a line of Cowboys plus 3.5.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So
Like, no, I'm taking the piss. Yeah, would you be keen to do head to head?
yeah, yeah, Cows Titans head to head. I'm happy with that. I mean, I would have
Okay,
taken.
wait. Here we go. Let's do a spread line. So if the Titans win by plus 3.5, that counts as two. If head to head, that counts as one. Cowboys 3.5, that counts as two. Would you be
Yeah,
willing to do
I
that?
mean, I'm just thinking how that would affect. So if you won one of the other ones, you'll have four. If say you got the 2 points and you won one of the other ones, you have four, and then I'll have four. Yeah, okay, we can do that, and then it'll be a draw if you go one and then get 2 points from this game.
Exactly.
So 3.5, or should we make it more? Like I don't know, like five
We'll
and a
go,
half.
yeah, we'll go 5.5 if you want.
Yep. So if either team wins by more than 5.5, so like 6 points or more, um, then that's 2 points for the person. And then if it's just to win by less than six, that's 1 point for the person.
Strong agree.
Nice, nice. Okay. Yeah, that's everything. I think we've got those three side bets as mentioned, which will be in the comments as always. All the bets will be in the comments as always. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. We'll attempt to respond to them. We'll try and both give our opinion if possible. But yeah, any questions about any of the bets we're placing, any questions about where you can find the best odds of any of the bets, just leave a comment. We're happy to help out in regards to that. Do you have anything else to add for this round?
No, let's, as always, I think it's time to call off with our famous goodbye. Am I right?
Yeah.
So thank you for
Probably
watching. I think it
just
is
one
time
last
for us
thing.
to go fuck ourselves. Am I right?
Yeah, just one last thing. Because this is the last round of side bets, just let us know in the comments what our punishment should be.
Again, we're not kissing each other. We're not making a porno like some of you suggesting.
Yeah, no, yeah, just let us know in the comments what the punishment should be. It'll probably be something during, not that we're going in Magic Round, but during Magic Round that we do. So, yeah, leave a comment and we'll get onto that. But yeah, as you mentioned, we'll go fuck ourselves.